welcome to the 6th episode in my summer blockbuster movie series. Today we will be discussing the 80s classic Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise and rest in peace, Val Kilmer. So let's soar into some fun facts and interesting happenings on the set. Top Gun was released in 1986 and directed by Tony Scott. This movie went through quite the rigorous casting process. So many people were up for grabs to play the character of Maverick. So, who were they? So, the first casting choice for the role of Maverick was none other than John Travolta. What? Now, he started to have a little bit of an argument with his agent, and his studio had deemed him too expensive, and because he had a series of box office flops, they were like, no, let's have a no-go with John. So, who was next? Other names for consideration of Maverick included Patrick Swayze, Emilio Estevez, Scott Baio, Tom Hanks, Sean Penn, Matthew Broderick, and Michael J. Fox. And then, of course, as we know, Tom Cruise went on to have the role of Maverick. So, what took so long in finding this part, and what finally convinced Tom to say yes? So, Tom previously also turned the role of Maverick down, saying, no, I don't want to do this. So, what convinced him to finally be like, okay, I gotta do this movie? So, Tony Scott and a few of the producers decided to take Tom on the pad of where the jet was and said, all right, let's go to 5Gs and see if this adrenaline rush of force is going to convince you. And of course, as we know, Tom is someone who just loves to do his stunts, and he is notorious for injuring himself, but I guess that just gives him that extra oomph to really want to do his own thing. So after he experienced a 5G adrenaline rush of going into this fighter jet, he was like, hell yeah, sign me up. So Tom Cruise went on to play Maverick. Next, interesting and quite another wow fact indeed, was that Val Kilmer, who went on to play Iceman, also said, no, I don't want to do this movie. So much so that he and Tom actually shared the same agent. So his agent was like, hey, Val, go out for this movie. He's kind of the villain, but I think you're perfect for it. And Val literally went into the audition sabotaging his audition because he was like, nah, I don't want to play this role. Even though my agent wants me to go out for it, I'm literally going to suck and be bad on purpose because I don't want this. So much so that Val Kilmer said, quote, I felt like the script was too silly and I dislike warmongering films. But after taking a little bit more convincing and director Tony Scott's vision, he agreed and he became Iceman. Well, you can't have a film without a protagonist and an antagonist, and obviously Maverick is our protagonist, Iceman is our antagonist, and that obviously can create a bit of a feud between the two characters. There was actually a real feud offset between Val and Tom. So what actually happened, and how did it come to be? Well, Val Kilmer graduated from the well-known, prestigious Juilliard School of Drama, and he learned the method acting technique. He leaned on to that technique into his filming, and because of this being a bully of sorts, he leaned on to that bully dynamic of that character and began to not turn that off. And that is what began the riff between the two actors off screen. But thankfully, over some time, the two actors squashed their feud and actually became really great friends. And when Top Gun 2 Maverick came out decades later, obviously we see Val return for his character, and they have that little sweet, bittersweet moment, and we're friends up until the end. So this next fact is pretty awesome. The actors, because CGI and practical effects weren't as a huge thing as of yet in the 80s, the actors really took to the skies in this movie. They trained with actual fighter jet pilots for these scenes that took place in the skies, which if you're not trained to do so, and you are having to learn for a film in an X amount of months, that's pretty damn scary. Being that these fighter jet pilots had to train actors essentially how to drive these jets into the sky, this was a very high risk of doing so because obviously something could go wrong, there's injury. They're fighter jets, so they're typically used in types of battles and warfare. So this was so risky that the Pentagon charged Paramount Pictures, the production company that produced this film, $1.8 million just to have this done. That's how much of a safety precaution they were like, no, this is serious. We are going to charge you this amount just in case all hell breaks loose. Now, Tom Cruise, I believe we can all agree, is a great actor, but he's not the tallest in the world, so there could be some continuity issues or some scene problems opposite whoever's in the scene with him. So yes, Tom's height was an issue on set. Tom is 5'7", and a lot of the scenes that he had was with his instructor slash love interest, if you'd like to say, Kelly McGillis, who is 5'10". So to help make him appear taller or just as tall as his scene partner Kelly, he had to wear special lifted cowboy boots. Whatever you gotta do to get the scene done, it's the movies. It's magic. So last but not least, this final fact is a little bit of a depressing one. Now, as I mentioned, the actors did train with real fighter jet pilots, but there were still stunt people on set for anything that was just deemed too risky or if the actors were uncomfortable. And a stuntman unfortunately lost his life on the set of this film. A stunt pilot's jet malfunctioned and nosedived in the Pacific Ocean during a scene in the movie. Unfortunately, and still to this day, his body or the plane was never found. And the last words that can be heard over his speaker in the plane reported back to the other pilots back on ground was, "I have a problem. Hey, I have a serious problem." And that was the last they heard from him before he ultimately crashed. So before I conclude, I would just like to say Top Gun is one of my favorite action movies. I just love the sequence of the fighter jets and of course the iconic volleyball scene, the singing scene with the piano, and there's just many things about this film that are really enjoyable, high adrenaline, kind of has a nail-biting moment or keeps you on the edge of your seat, and just all around a fun movie. And I really did enjoy the sequel as well. So thank you so much for watching this 6th installment in my summer blockbuster movie series. Until next time, I will be back with another episode 7 summer blockbuster episode, so stay tuned and see you soon. Thanks for watching.